It's 6:30. We'll call Sawyer County Public Works Committee meeting to order. Ask clerk to call the roll, please.
Ron Kingsley,
There.
Mark Elway, Ed Peters,
Here.
Dale Olson, Ryan Bissonette.
Here.
Have a quorum.
Let the record indicate we have a quorum. We have 2 committee members by virtual. 3, certification compliance with open meeting laws.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and the news media as required by section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Number 4 is the agenda. The agenda is set. Number 5 is public comment. Now, Mr. Patrick Newcomb talked to me and he asked if he could have a little more than 3 minutes because he has some different issues he'd like to bring up, and I told him we would allow him more time. But anybody else for public comments? Martin, I'm not sure I can read your last name. Cranford. Wish to address the committee?
During the migratory bird section,
This is the time, my friend.
this would be the time. Okay. So this would be in relation to 7D, the migratory goose and bird. I am a 23-year aircraft mechanic. I've seen a lot of damage caused to aircraft by birds, and there obviously is a goose issue at the airport during this time of year, migratory birds. If it pleases the committee, I do have some paperwork that I can hand out regarding a product that could help with goose mitigation. If you wish. Who all would like a copy?
We would like one to the record. Thank you.
Sir, did you want one?
Thank you, Phil.
You're welcome. So just a little background, worldwide bird strikes cause $1.3 billion in damage a year to aircraft, $951 million in the US alone. From the time period of 1991 to 2008, 71 accidents occurred where aircraft have struck birds. 6 of those resulted in fatalities. So just from striking a bird, the damage to the aircraft was severe enough they lost control, crashed, and 71 accidents, 6 fatalities. 48% of those occurred during takeoff, 30% on approach, 6% during landing. So 84% of those accidents happened in the vicinity of an airport. Geese obviously are a problem. People on lakes deal with them as well. That's actually where this product came from, is people with yards that want to keep geese off of them because they're messy, they're angry, they're nasty birds. They like to feed on grass and they like short, nicely cut grass. So at the airport where we see them most is between the ramp and the runway, that nice cut grassy area. They don't like tall grass, bushes, and trees, and the reason being is predators hide in that. So if there's taller grass, bushes, someplace where a predator can hide, geese don't like it. So there are other mitigations that can be done, leaving grass taller in certain areas where it's not an eyesore, keeping it cut closer, and then treating it to keep the birds away is what most airports do. So the approach and departure ends of the airport, leave the grass higher, leave some bushes there so the birds don't hang out there. And then the areas that you want to be nice and clean, treat with a product such as this that deters the birds away. It is EPA approved, it's non-harmful. Basically, it tastes bad, the birds come down, they eat the grass, they don't like it, they move on. After a while, they learn that that's not a good place to be, so they don't even bother landing there. If you look at a topographical map of the airport and the vicinity, the airport is pretty much the only cleanly cut grass in the area. So as the birds are flying by, they're gonna see that, they're gonna come down, they're gonna land, they're gonna nest, they're gonna eat. If you treat it, it keeps them away. Some other options, they have cannons, propane cannons that you can put out there to fire off every so often, scare the birds away. But there are neighbors around the airport that are probably going to complain about that. Decoys, you can put decoys out there. Again, that's a cost factor. Birds get used to it. Once they realize that that thing's not moving, They're going to ignore it. They're going to come down. They're going to poop on it. That just happens. Also, it creates a eye hazard for pilots coming in that may not realize that that is a decoy. And of course, shooting birds. You can shoot them, but of course, firing off guns in the vicinity of an airport, not likely or not highly effective, as well as, again, you're going to annoy the neighbors and anybody riding a bicycle up and down that may not be in the favor of shooting birds. You probably get complaints on that one. So the biggest thing is the liability risk of the birds. Striking the aircraft, it's a safety concern. So I would just like to see that the board maybe look into some options and addressing it. I know in the past, we've run vehicles up and down the runway, but having been in aviation as long as I am, if you look in the gutter on the streets, you'll see nuts and bolts that fall out of cars. If we're running up and down that runway with vehicles, we're running the chance of putting FOD on the runway as well. So yes, it is a mitigation factor to run up and down, but if something falls off that car and that airplane tire hits it, pops a tire, that's what happened on the Concorde that killed a lot of people. It blew a tire, took out an engine, airplane crash, killed a lot of people. So FOD on the runway is a factor as well. So just something to keep in mind. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Newcomb.
My name is Patrick Newcomb. I'm a resident taxpayer of Sawyer County and have lived in Hayward for the last 5 years. I have an associate's degree in aviation management, a bachelor's degree in business finance. I'm a licensed airline transport pilot and FAA certified flight instructor. I have 6,000 hours of flight time and everything from small Cessnas to transport category aircraft. I have 30 years of operational and leadership experience in military, commercial, and business segments of the aviation industry. I served as a U.S. Naval Air Crewman on Black Hawk helicopters flying sorties all over the globe, including combat missions in Kuwait and Bosnia-Herzegovina. I was an airline pilot for U.S. Airways for several years, and I've served as the chief pilot and/or director of operations for 3 different companies and was the safety officer and now current chief pilot for Link Snacks. I sit on the Domestic Operations Committee of the National Business Aircraft Association, which represents more than 11,000 companies and professionals and is the largest advocate and solicitor to Congress on all matters related to business aviation. And I'm the lead FAST team rep for the FAA, a volunteer position that serves as a liaison between the local aviation community and the FAA to promote aviation safety. As an aviation professional, there is nothing more important to me than aviation safety. I have spent my entire career studying to be an authority on the subject and advocating for aviation safety. As the committee directly responsible for overseeing the management of the airport, you have a duty of care, a fiduciary and regulatory responsibility to maintain our airport in a safe and efficient manner. So it should be a foregone conclusion that we both are aligned towards the same goals here, to maintain the highest standards of safety at our airport. So my question is, why would the chairman of this committee be unwilling to allow a subject matter expert an opportunity to get on tonight's agenda to report several ongoing unresolved safety issues at the airport? What is more important to this committee than public safety? On August 31st, we had a meeting with the airport manager to discuss the migratory bird problem at the airport, an ongoing issue for years. This was one of many meetings I've been a part of to raise concerns about the lack of safety at our airport. As usual, while assuring us that he would get the subject on the Public Works Committee agenda to raise awareness and solicit funds for mitigation, he emailed us the next day to inform us that he was unable to add it. I spoke with Lynn at the clerk's office and she informed me that she would reach out to the chairman to add me to the agenda. I followed up with her on 9/7 and she told me that the subject had been added but altered to read migratory bird mitigation, not plural safety concerns. She suggested I speak with Tom Hoff to resolve this issue. I left a message for Tom and also for Ron Kinsley that morning. Tom Hoff returned my call at around 1 p.m. and said he would speak to the chairman. At around 5 p.m., the chairman returned my call, but after briefly describing my concerns, he informed me that he would not change the agenda. He suggested I bring up my concerns during the public appearance period of the meeting, which, as you know, is limited in time and restricts the members of this committee from directly addressing the speakers. This is absolutely unacceptable and diminishes the public trust in this committee's ability to remain biased and vigilant to such important public matter. There should be nothing more important or urgent to the members of this committee than safety. This political jockeying to restrict public discord is shameful. So I would ask that the first order of business tonight should be a motion from one of the committee members to amend the agenda so that we can discuss these safety concerns and that have been plaguing the airport for a long time and propose solutions tonight to mitigate that. Thank you. As part of the agenda tonight, since we're talking about migratory birds in the vicinity, I'll briefly mention some remarks about that. Martin already kind of laid out some statistics. We had brought this hazard to the attention of the airport manager for several years, and he's chosen to do little to mitigate the problem. It's only been now that after we've had a serious incident at the airport that he's interested in discussing the matter. If you read the airport, well, I'll skip that. To be effective, the committee must rely on accurate risk assessments of the conditions at the airport so you have a complete picture of the potential exposure to your operation. The reality of the situation is a $4 million turboprop struck a goose on short approach, causing well over $400,000 in damages to the aircraft control surfaces and loss of residual value. The pilot made a successful emergency landing. However, had the goose struck 18 inches to the left, it would have hit the prop and been ingested into the engine intake, which would have likely resulted in an engine failure, prop blade separation, and a potential serious accident with fatalities. A new engine and prop is roughly $1.5 million, but consider what the surviving family members would likely do if they learned that this accident had been completely preventable had the airport manager taken action years ago when the hazard was first identified. In other words, we came within 18 inches of having a fatality at the airport caused by a hazard that the airport has largely ignored for several years. Even after this incident, the airport manager has resisted taking action and has gone so far as to derail efforts of stakeholders at the airport from addressing this committee about the issue. I have provided an example of an aircraft accident that highlights the potential risks associated with this ongoing hazard. And this issue requires the committee's immediate attention, and we are prepared to offer several mitigation strategies for you to consider, as well as some of these other issues that really need the attention of this committee immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to address the committee? Go ahead, Linda.
Linda Zilmer, 902 Holly Hill Lane, Edgewater property owner. And just kind of listening to the previous public comment, I'm not sure if the speaker is aware that Wisconsin has an open meetings law that would require longer notice than was available to amend the agenda. And I do see an agenda item that would address the concerns he just mentioned. And so I hope that when you get to that agenda item, then you'll be able to address the concerns. But I guess in listening to what happened, I don't know that you as a chairman had a choice. Thank you.
Thank you. Dale?
Mr. Chairman, just letting you know, I had a close contact for COVID. That's why I'm not at the meeting tonight, and I have to appear by Zoom. I missed last night's and tonight's meeting. But sorry about that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to number 6, consideration approval of the minutes of the previous meeting of August 11th.
I'll move approval.
I'll second it. For the motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Kinsley to approve the minutes as presented. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Number 7, Sawyer County Airport Report. Letter A, Aviation LLC Contract Airport Report, September 21. Derek?
Any questions on the report?
Anything you want to highlight for us, please?
Obviously, there's a couple pressing issues that I could discuss that it's up to the chairman if those safety concerns should be brought up yet tonight or not. Sticking to the agenda and report that I've made, really the big thing I'd like to highlight, I didn't put it in the report, is that our beacon light is going to be finally installed here, hopefully in the next couple weeks. It's been almost a year and a half since the beacon lights been down, and pole finally came in from China.
Who's responsible for that?
Under contract, it's going to be McCabe, a contractor who won the bid for the project. So then it's on top of them, it's Becker Hoppy, the engineer in charge of building the spec for the project, and then ultimately the Bureau of Aeronautics was funding it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Anybody else on the committee have questions for Derek? We'll move on to letter B, Sawyer County Airport hangar lease application, discussion and possible action. You want to take this?
One of the hangar owners is on the line, I think, one of the attendees.
Okay,
Both of the upcoming hangar owners have been given copies of the documents that are in front of the committee tonight. Although we just got them from Rebecca yesterday, everything's pretty boilerplate. It's copy and paste from all the hard work that we put in last winter, trying to get these hangar lease templates done. So both hangar owners are aware, and they're both on there now too, I see, both individuals.
Derek, you want to introduce why these are coming up tonight?
Well, I didn't print them off. I really don't need them. It's been in the report for the last couple of months. We've been talking about it, that there are hangar leases that are expiring. They're 30-year lease. One of these was one that we just took action on here a few months ago, approving unanimously all of the 10-year extensions of the 20-year leases. Well, now really this is our second 30-year lease at the airport that's expired. One expired several years ago that we're still trying to get some legal help on, trying to figure out a couple issues with. These other two hangar owners, I mentioned it in my report. They're both, operating their hangars and facilities in the way that they're supposed to, the way that we would like them to. They put airplanes in and out of the hangar, and that's a good thing because we have an issue where people don't do that. So I would recommend to the committee that you approve both of these hangar leases because one is set to expire September 30th and the next October 1st. Essentially, it's just sending it out to the full county board, and the new contracts won't go into effect until the day after the 30-year lease agreements from the old contracts expire. So I don't know if there has to be stipulations in that. I think the dates would probably just be written on the lease agreement itself. It'll enter into effect the day after the hangar leases expire.
The date's in there, yes.
Yeah. Any questions on these hangar leases that you could think of? I think it should be a pretty clear-cut process with these guys, especially. We don't have to adjust any of the surveys for the plot of land. They haven't made any adjustments. They haven't added any infrastructure like propane tanks or holding tanks. They haven't increased the lot size since the original surveys were done in 1991. So I'd like to see the committee send it to full board, both of them.
I have no questions on it. I would move that we
we should do them individually.
do them individually. That we do the Sawyer Aviation Airport hangar lease application, approve that. We're sending it out to the board.
I would second that, Mr. Chairman.
The motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Olson to approve resolution approving the Sawyer County Airport hangar lease. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Second lease,
I would make a motion to approve the Dave Matosha hangar lease application.
Second.
Zanette,
Brian,
That was
Yeah.
Dale.
That was Dale.
thank you. Motion by Mr. Peters, second by Mr. Olson to approve the second hang release. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next item. Letter D, goose and migrated bird mitigation. Start. Scott.
Well, as you heard earlier in public comment, we had an incident at the airport that was 3 weeks ago tomorrow. TBM aircraft on short final at the airport hit a goose, took out the left flap. I picked the goose up off the end of the runway. It wasn't on the asphalt. As per the FAA guidelines, I had to submit bird strike through a federal database system. Part of that is also shipping the bird off to the Smithsonian. That's kind of part of the deal. I really couldn't tell you why, but I think they want to identify exactly what kind of bird that it was. And sometimes when birds are ingested into engines, you might not be able to know what kind of bird it was without maybe grabbing its feathers or something like that. So shipping an entire goose in is something that I've had to do once before. We had a bird strike 5 years ago, 2 days removed from this current bird strike. So it's a second recorded bird strike that we've had at our airport in recorded history. So I prepared some statements and some things that I'd like to discuss with committee, and I guess I'd just like to open it up first if anybody wants to ask questions on Link's presentation.
What, please?
Correction, that wasn't a Link's presentation, that was a Patrick presentation.
Or the Mr. Cranford's presentation.
No, but I have a suggestion. I understand you gentlemen are very educated and you have experience with it, and that's great. It's a great advantage to that. But the way to approach it to the committee, obviously you've talked to our airport manager, and you haven't got satisfied results. Okay, so the next step would be to go to the administrator and communicate with him. Okay, and if you don't get satisfaction there, then you approach to get it on the agenda of the Public Works, which is fine. And we make a line item for just them items, okay? It's hard to come in a couple of days before a meeting, and I have no idea which, I mean, I could put safety on there, but safeties are pretty broad, and we like to try to narrow it down to specific things so the public knows what's out there also. Okay?
Understood, Mr. Chairman. There are so many issues at the airport that need to be addressed with regard to safety that it's hard to narrow them down to just a few. I tried to narrow down to 4, but I gave this gentleman plenty of opportunity to get this on the agenda. We came to him a week before this meeting. That should have been plenty of time. And then when he didn't get it on the agenda, I immediately called the clerk. So I think I followed a pretty decent chain of events here to try to get this in front of the committee. I understand that you're interested in public safety, but it just doesn't seem like there's much of a sense of urgency. I mean, the issue at the FBO had been going on for 4 months. And that tells me that you or Tom Huff, nobody has gone by the airport to even take a look at what's going on out there. There's no supervision whatsoever.
Okay. We can address those things, okay? But we're not going to do it tonight. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions regarding letter D? Who's migrated? Mr. Bestet, Mr. Olson?
I do, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
I'm holding my can koozie up here that says report all bird strikes and has the FAA website on it. It's always been important to me. you know, this doesn't say prohibit all bird strikes, and we don't live in a jello cube. And every time I drive my vehicle, there's a potential for disaster. I understand the very eloquent speaker we had, and thank you, sir, for coming in. I think that was fabulous. You were super put together. At the same time, I don't know about if this is just a goose problem. We have migratory bird on there, which is obviously lots of them. Woodcock are on the federal endangered species, and they're migratory bird. If this is a goose problem, I'm certain we can do something fairly simplistic to solve it. Whether it is this chemical repellent, which I wouldn't be in favor of, whether it be having a, I'm sure we can find a few fellas that would be more than willing to take out a few geese and make sure they don't want to come in there anymore. We can do it, but it's certainly not going to guarantee a darn thing. And this is the Public Works Committee, not the Public Safety Committee. We will do our best, and I think Mr. Leslie was pretty profound when he said 2 incidents in recorded history. I think that's all we have to worry about at this point in time. If somebody would like to put together a plan, I think this committee should put it on the agenda and hear it in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Olson.
Can I speak to that?
Pardon?
May I speak to that?
Briefly.
It's not a chemical. It's actually an extract that's perfectly safe, EPA approved. So it's not a chemical that you're spraying down it. It's actually a grape extract. The birds hate the taste of the grape. Secondly, goose are the biggest problems because of the size and damage they cause to the aircraft. I've seen jets hit pigeons and it barely dents them, but geese are the biggest hazard factor to aircraft. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd be interested to know also how many times we chase geese off the runway on a daily basis.
Number 8, Highway Commissioners Report. We have a report from the commissioner. He's not here tonight. Does anybody have any questions on the airport commissioners report?
Mr. Chairman, I've been out on Highway B where they've been doing the overlayment.
Yeah.
They are really moving along. They're doing really, really well. Very proud of the guys for doing that much work.
Thank you. I'll share that with the commissioner.
Then also, I would like to second that, since I drive that route several times a month. The progress has been very good.
Thank you. Next item we have is maintenance report. Denver.
That went really fast, almost got me off work. Any questions on my report at all?
You're a good writer.
I will throw in one comment if I could.
Absolutely.
You know, I just probably say something along this lines every year, but on the 11th, be my 18th anniversary here at Sawyer County. I just want to thank the committee. I have appreciated the opportunities, and you know, and I've been blessed with some really good staff over the time, because we sink or swim as a department, just like every other department. So I just want the committee to know that I have to appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. I believe with some of the board members he was thinking.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 10, courtroom remodel update. Wait for Mr.
He's walking in 3, 2, 1. There he is.
Courtroom remodel update. Are you okay?
Yep. Okay, on the courtroom, we met with Myron Construction and the architect, 2 weeks ago? And we got our first packet of information regarding the first initial cost estimate. The first few meetings we had with them were regarding design and refining the design of the building to be constructed. And so this was the handoff to the construction company to take all of that information and put some numbers to it to see where we are at budget-wise. Good news, bad news. Good news, we're just under our budget. So that's a good part, but barely. And what we hope to do through the next couple of meetings is refine that further. Obviously, there's a larger contingency as we start out, and then that grows smaller as we get more details about the plan and whatnot. So, we still have the costs that we have incurred to build the road to pay, and the construction costs. So we're still working on getting all of that done for under our budgeted amount. We were supposed to have a meeting this morning with the gang to have the second round of that, but we couldn't get all of our schedules together, so that's been rescheduled for next week, next Monday. So otherwise, we would have had some more updated information tonight, but after our meeting on Monday, we'll have more information and can probably pass some of that along at county board next week as well. Questions or comments on where we're at? Tim Hagberg has also been working with Excel Energy to reroute power and utilities, working with the city on the utilities and Excel and We Energy, I think, on the power. That's another piece of the puzzle that needs to get done. So we're in good shape as far as timing on that. Still planning on bidding either late this year, optimistically, or very early next year, so that construction can start in the spring of 22.
You want to share with the committee what you learned this morning? Or?
Yeah, with XL Energy, because they're planning on, there's some work they would like to do on their own part. Some things they wanted to see changed in the future a little bit. So we're going to incorporate some of that into the project, but they said best case scenario for Sawyer County, our share would probably be close to $10,000. Worst case scenario, because again, it's unknowns and once they get into the project, worst case scenario would be $15,000. Sawyer County share, but they thought they would come in definitely under that.
And it's because most of it's because of the work they're doing on the corner. And
Yeah, because they have that one power pole on Main and Fifth that gets hit by semis. So they wanted to do some rerouting, upgrades and things. So they're going to incorporate some of that into the project. So just kind of speeds up their timeline for when they were going to do their stuff.
Did you say they're going to put another pool back in here?
Yeah.
Or were they going underground?
Yeah, they said what part of the project, when their engineers looked at it, Sawyer County is going to have to allow them. And I don't know exactly where yet, because they'll send us the drawings once they get a little further along in the design process. But probably on the Main Street side, in our yard, we're going to have a power pole out there somewhere to kind of help accommodate with this powers, the reroute. So we'll be losing one in the backyard, gaining one in the front yard. So, but it shouldn't be anything really noticeable, because it'll be up close to the parking lot and just like it is now. So at least we don't have, it's not gonna be like my flag over anything like that. So, but they said they just couldn't find any way around it without us inheriting a power pole somewhere.
Thank you. Anything else from you?
Unless you have other questions.
We'll move on to number 11, future agenda items. Future agenda items is going to be the ATV, UTV from the highway with on Highway B going through the town of Hunter. We're going to have to see, has Rebecca been working on anything to do with that?
She's on the line.
Rebecca,
I am. Sure, I can give you a quick update. I've been working with Gary Gedhart last month and had put together some draft language to be presented to you all. And I understand that Gary is not there this evening, so you don't have that in front of you. But we'll bring that back next month so you can review it and consider it. And in the meantime, if you'd like me to circulate it, I'm happy to circulate it to the committee.
Well, let you work with Gary and Tom and then bring it to the committee, please.
Very good.
Thank you. Other things for the agenda. If them two gentlemen want to put together some kind of plan that we're addressing the committee about safety, and they want to invite Tom and Derek, and if you think it needs to come to the committee, I'm certainly open to that. But I'm not going to have someone just bring it with no insight. Okay, yes.
Yeah, I'll get information and we'll have a sit down with the gentlemen that were here and let them voice their concerns and see what needs to be addressed. Obviously they don't understand all the process here, and that the committee is responsible for the policy, and it's up to us to get the operations in order if there's something that's out of order. So we'll investigate what these gentlemen have to say and address it operationally. And then if there's policy issues like goose mitigation policy or whatever, then those things we'll bring back as needed.
I would just like to request, if I can, especially on behalf of the guy who's not here, the guy who's last month. I had a statement prepared, I didn't get through that, but should the goose mitigation topic be on the agenda again for next month?
Well, we're going to let you guys discuss it and see if you think it needs to come back to the committee. How's that? And I'm willing to listen to them two gentlemen again if they wish, but I want things to be organized and properly brought it forward. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. I'm sure they have some ideas, but let's let them run the ideas through you guys and see what you think of it and see if it needs to come to the committee. Okay. Is there anything else that we need to get on the agenda? Is there any more leases coming up before the end of the year?
Before the end of the year, no, but we still have a couple outlying hangar leases that there's nothing happening with, and some of that needs to be me, Tom, and Rebecca, but ultimately it's going to become policy issues. I mean, there's no way around that. That's going to end up hitting this committee as to, who gets the right to have a hangar. We can't build any new hangars. A lot of airports actually have, like a master list, a master plan. We don't have that. We don't have anywhere to build, but we do have one in particular hangar lease that's just expired.
Do we have someone in that?
What was that?
Do we have someone in that hangar?
Oh, yeah, and they're not utilizing it the way they're supposed to. So, I mean, it hasn't been on the agenda. I don't think it might not even be on the agenda for next month, but it's definitely coming down soon. We just have to try to figure out, I don't know, talking too much.
Well, maybe suggesting you get to figure out what you want to do with it and then run it by Tom and then we'll bring it back to the agenda.
Yeah.
Does that sound reasonable? Okay. Anybody else have anything?
Well, I guess I was quite concerned about what the one gentleman said, and I thought there were a number of, shall we say, hanging allegations out there. And so I think that if there are things other than geese that we ought to know about them so that we can see whether or not that is a policy that we can address. I guess that was my.
Well, that's a good comment. I did talk to the gentleman last evening, and he had 4 things he was going to address, and he did tonight. So I'm not sure why he didn't address all 4 things. I told him I would allow him some extra time, and I believe we didn't allow him extra time. So maybe he'll bring that up to Derek and Mr. Huff.
I did speak with them as well, and I heard the same 4 things. So we'll meet with them and see if they need to be taken, or if they can be taken care of, or if it's a policy issue. Yeah, sure.
Okay. Anything for correspondence, reports, conferences? Hearing none, thank you for your valuable time. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, Mr. Bissonnette. Thank you, Mr. Olson. from